Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we are doing our February book bingo recap. To review, this is our bingo card. We had, for examples, historical romance, books with a happy ending, place you visited before, a winning book, book with betrayal, book that starts with F because for February.
Yep. I told you that's one. There's one like that in every bingo board.
Book with the pink cover, second chances, and so much more. I have full on read 4 books. One is up for discussion later on in this video.
Fair. Okay. I read 3 books.
Yeah.
2 3/4 if you want to be really technical, but I'm gonna count it as 3 because I read the majority of it in February.
And that's where my technicality comes in.
Yeah.
Alright, so what is your first box that you read in February?
I did a book with a happy ending. So I had technically started this one this was originally on my January list, because it was supposed to be a book recommended by a friend, which this is actually my physical book, but there was a month that Katie wanted to read something and she couldn't find what she wanted to read. So I let her go through my shelf and I said, take a gander, see what strikes you.
That was when we were doing,
the alphabet challenge?
No. Was it alphabet? I thought it was another challenge.
Was that my 2023 challenge that I made?
Yeah, it was the one where, like, we had actual, like, read a book that has this, read a book that has that.
Oh, yeah, that was my 2023
But it was,
challenge.
like, 50 different books.
It was 50.
That was part of mine.
Okay,
yeah.
then this you read 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. But so this was recommended, like I said, it was one that was actually mine, but you're looking at the other option?
Yeah.
Okay. This was actually mine, but Katie read it first because she went shopping through my bookshelves to check off a prompt that we had previously done. But it was one that she came back and she's like, no, you're going to actually really enjoy this. I actually got it as like a mystery grab from like Book Outlet a couple years ago.
Okay.
Back when I found Book Outlet, and it was like, I think it was like $2-3 on there.
Nice.
Which, like, we love a good quality book for $2-3.
Yeah.
Book Outlet is an
read
absolute...
by 2 people.
Book Outlet is an absolute vibe.
Yeah.
Truly. So I finally picked this up and I had started it, and it became available in January. Like, January 29th or 30th. And I was like, well, I'll just start it in February.
Yeah.
Now, by that point, we had already filmed February, so this was not even on my consideration for my bingo list in February.
Fair. Yeah.
Because I was trying to keep myself locked down to different books every month to try and keep it going. Because I do have an ever-growing TBR.
Don't we all?
So I do have an ever-growing TBR, which I love. But I had tried to keep all my books exclusive to their month. But when this came in available and nothing else was showing available from my Libby for audiobooks, and my Hoopla had undownloaded itself, and I had no more memory on my phone, I was like, all right, we're going to start here. Sounds great. And it really does fit a book with a happy ending. It is a really, really sweet book. I did feel that some of the drama that was created in this book was very unnecessary. I felt like we could have had a lot of the conflict without adding that level of, like, pettiness that went into it.
Okay.
I also did not, spoiler alert, I did not feel her friend needed a redemption arc. That hint of one.
To be honest, I don't remember the book.
When her friend, like, finds her in the bathroom or something and, like, helps her put herself back together at, like, at the award ceremony that she's supposed to be presenting at the very end. And she's like, oh, no, you're fine. Like, we won't be friends again. But, like, I don't feel like she needed that moment. Now, like, I also don't feel like she needed the moment in the party where she was at, like, the rival, like, grandma's rival's party.
Yeah.
And, like, she found her in that bathroom there and then, like, purposely called the paparazzi over to find her. I didn't feel like the former best friend needed to show up in any of those moments.
Yeah.
I feel like we were just content to just let sleeping pigs lie, so to speak. And yes, I said pigs and not dogs. Because that's offensive to dogs. It's offensive to pigs, too, but pigs are dirtier. But honestly, it was really, really, really sweet and really, really, really cute.
Good.
And honestly, this probably could have gone into a couple of them. Because it's also about a book about a place that, not about, but it takes place in a place that I visited. But, like, I grew up in New York.
Yeah, I was like, or you live.
But I grew up on Long Island, so, like, the city was
you
still a
technically
visit.
Yeah.
The city is still a visit. It's still a planned event you have to do. But no, I really enjoyed this, and it really fits a lot of my stuff, which you said it would when you recommended it to me as well, was that it fits a lot of my stuff of like this Hollywood star-crossed romance and grand gestures and all of that is in here, and it was really, really sweet.
Would you overall rate it?
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Again, I would say thinking about it, I probably would have rated it a little bit lower. I think I was just really satisfied with the ending it got. But I found that drama and that pettiness just didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Now I understand it's a YA book, so like, yeah, it's going to be there. Because like, why would you do that? But at the same time, I feel like it should have been lower because of that. The only reason I went with that 4 was that ending is just very solid.
That's fair.
Personally.
So what was your second book that you read this month?
My second book I read this month was actually like a random pick. So I had reserved it on Libby like months ago and I forgot because it was my book of the month option. If I haven't mentioned already, I have a book of the month subscription. I've skipped a couple of months, both for financial reasons and book selection options.
That's fair.
This was one that I wasn't sure I wanted to get. So I had reserved it on Libby when I saw it come out. Because I was like, let me read it first and see if I like it. Because that was a month that, like, I could have taken the financial hit of, like, I'll just get a book. But then I also was like, do I want a book that I'm not really invested in? I'm now going to go buy this book.
Awesome. We love it.
That's on the, like, goal for the bingo list. It was Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. I read it on my Kobo. And I read it on my flight to Tennessee Valentine's Day weekend. And then my flight home. I literally finished it in my flight there and my flight back. And that is only about 3 hours between the two.
Yeah.
Because it's about an hour and a half each way. Yeah. But I completely devoured it. It was so stinking cute. Now, there's a lot of stuff, like, with every romance book. I will say this. There is so much that's unnecessary in a romance book. And the more I'm reading romance books, the more prevalent that's becoming for me.
Yeah.
And I used to be this person that always wanted more out of a book. They're giving me more of the wrong thing. And I mean it with love, because, like, I genuinely really enjoyed this book. This book also takes place in New York. I had a theme, clearly. Don't worry, the next book does not. Though the first half of February had a theme. But it was really, really sweet. I love the slow realization that the character comes through to decide and realize who, the only way I can phrase is, like, who her Prince Charming is. But I also felt it was really, now, I'm going to say this and it might come off assuming, but I really felt it was a very real reflection and real side of things of, like, your emotions and the roller coaster you go on. 1, as a female, when you are invested in somebody, but 2, when you're invested in somebody and there are additional hormones that take place. Like, it is a pregnancy story.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not like a surprise pregnancy. Like, it's a surprise pregnancy, but it's not like a pregnancy trope kind of thing. I wouldn't put it in a pregnancy trope kind of thing personally, because, like, to me, pregnancy trope is, like, where, like, you're obsessed with pregnant people, or, like, your whole goal is to get the person that you're pregnant by to fall in love with you. And I don't feel like that's I don't feel like the story falls into that.
Okay.
I did rate it a 3.75, but I think it's also because I just low-key didn't want the baby daddy to fucking be around. Like, I didn't want him in there at some point. I reached a point reading this book where I was like, fuck this guy. Sorry, but, like, bunk this guy, like, heck off, sir.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a really beautiful story of, like, looking at what's in front of you. But one of the favorite things that I got out of this book was one of the quotes that, like, the nurse says is, it's like, you have to learn to be others-centered. And you don't really become others-centered until you learn to care for somebody else. Like, you are a caretaker. And that honestly made me sob. And one of the things that the nurse actually talks about in the story is that you don't become others-centered until you start to expand your lens outside of your family. Because, like, your other-centered is, like, you're yourself-centered. Then it's, like, you and your baby-centered. And then you realize it's, like, you, your baby, your husband, like, your little nuclear family. Your other-centered doesn't change for some people until they start to expand that view and realize that everyone is someone's other. And I was like, no one's left this realm of other-centered. And a lot of the population that's struggling right now, like to comprehend how we got here, is other-centered while the rest is other-centered, if that makes sense. And it was really just like, that quote alone was like impactful for me. But then it's to my last book.
What was the third box that you completed?
My third box was a book written by a female author. Now, this is one I've read a lot. I've read
author-wise.
Yeah. I love her writing. Lynn Painter. I talk about her in our March bingo selection. But I just love her. And I love her again. I read Betting on You. Also a digital read. And this one I do not own, for once. This is probably one of the few books of Lynn's that I don't own. But I love it. It's so stinking cute and quirky. And it's everything you want a YA book to be, honestly. It's Grumpy Sunshine. It's so just learning a person and caring for that person. Like, learning beyond, like, what you see of that person, like, on the surface, and even what you see of that person with their friends. Because, like, and I know I've said this to you, but one of the things that I live by is that everyone has different sides of themselves. Like, who they are with their best friend, who they are with their parents, who they are with their partner, usually are different versions of themselves. It's all the same person, but it's slightly different versions, whether it's due to code switching for their job or whatever. But it was learning someone in their entirety, and ultimately learning what their base personality was. Like, where all your neuroses and your anxieties and your insecurities come in, and learning how those manifest in each of those situations. And I thought that was the sweetest part of this whole book. And also, I was like, there's a whole section in there for, like, the whole story base is around a child of divorce figuring out her new normal. But I like it. It's interesting for me to see, because as a child of divorce, it was different because both my parents never dated, or that I was aware of. So watching, like, a high school girl watch her mom date, it was very interesting because she was like, I don't like it. And then she was like, wait, I don't like hate it. I don't hate it, but, like, I'm not loving it. And the only reason she doesn't love it is because she doesn't love the change for herself. Because she feels like she's ultimately getting phased out and pushed out. And honestly, like, I can't help but think I would feel the same way. And I think that my parents knew that. And that's why they didn't bring anything around me. Ultimately, no real qualms. Again, I think this one was a 4. And again, I think it was only a 4 because I loved the development. Especially of the main male character. Because he had to really work through some emotional unavailability issues. And it was a lot. Which I think it's also big to note is, like, that's not common for high schoolers to be willing to do. In total honesty. It's just not. But the fact that, but it does happen, and I think that there are stories that come out that do show that side of boys, is great. Because as, like, some of my boys, as students, simply they're like, well, girls don't find that attractive. Girls don't like that. Girls don't like when when you're open to them. And I'm like, yes, they do. Now, mind you, I'm an adult, and I'm, like, reminding them, like, hey, like, you will grow up to become an adult too. But also, I think, like, girls that see main male characters like this and ultimately are open to that will understand that they deserve someone that looks at them the way that Charlie looks at Bailey.
February, my first book was a book with the word love in the title. And so for that book, I read Love in English. And on my Fable review, I gave it a 5 out of 5. And I said I absolutely adored this book. I fell in love with the story, the characters, and the concept. I enjoyed reading about a teenager's perspective of moving to America and learning how to form relationships in a new language. I love the way the author used the pound sign to describe words that were unrecognizable to the main character. It is still a romance book where two people fall in love. But it is much more complex than that. I think everyone should read stories like this, and just maybe people will have a better understanding of each other. Okay. So, like, there's, it's an ESOL classroom of, like, 6 kids. That's not the whole premise of it, but
I this
days. Is where she meets, like, the other people.
I miss those days.
Yeah, but it was, like, And granted, I know, like, we work in Florida where it's a lot of the same language, but specifically where she is, it is someone from Greece and someone from Asia and someone from South America. So because of that, like, not even the people in the ESOL classroom could communicate with each other nicely. And the fun part was that, like, the teacher was just, like, thrown this class as well. Oh. He's like, I'm not, I don't know nothing. But, like, he would come up with icebreaker games. Literally, what I'm talking about is, like, very minimal things about the book. But,
what she liked the most was the teaching aspect, as would most teachers.
But no, but, like,
I can't wait for you to read Faculty Lounge and tell us all about how you like the teacher jokes in there.
And then he did, he would do, like, icebreakers. And they would do, like shopping, like, act out, like, going shopping and going to, like, a restaurant and be like, you're the waiter, and then you're the guest, whatever.
Customer?
Yeah, the customers. And all of that. And then he also made them all do a writing journal, which feels very normal.
Everything you said is everything I learned how to do in school.
Exactly. So...
literally, like, I remember writing lesson plans and be like, we're going to do a skit of being in a restaurant.
Yeah.
I'm having flashbacks.
And so, like, she is, like, an authentically good writer, so she, like, grabbed a hold of the book, or of her journal, and she wrote everything down, and that's also where she, like, grew into, like, some passion. But anyway, so she meets a girl in her ESOL class, or a boy in her ESOL class, and then she meets, like, the, like, high school boy, you know what I mean, like, the one. Okay. And so she's, like, also trying to figure out, you know, do you go with the sweet little Greek ESOL bestie?
Yeah.
Or do we fall in love with the American boy?
The plot she thickens.
You know? So that's why I was like, it's still a romance. But, like, it's so much more than just a cute little romance if you allow yourself to, like, be in it. My second box is a book written by a female author. This one, I don't know if I talked about this book in my February...
Ooh, that's a good question.
I don't know.
Either.
But, either way, this one is Feel Your Way Through by Kelsey Ballerini. And it is a poetry book. So, it was super quick. I think I read it in a day. So, on Fable, I gave it a 4.5 or 4.75.
I think it was 4.75.
4.75 out of 5.
Ooh,
I said
big, you're giving some big numbers this month.
A beautiful way to write about the peak moments in her life from childhood till publishing. Definitely made me wish for a second poetry book on her next 10 years of life.
Okay.
It is very easy to read, relatable, and inspiring. I felt like I was in her story the entire time and wished some poems had more to tell in a good way. And then a great read for those in their 20s and 30s. So, like, this is all about her life for, let's see, I would say, like, I think she starts at, like, childhood a little bit, yeah. And then she ends where she is, like, with her husband, which, spoiler alert for her life, she gets divorced, like, a year later. So that's very interesting.
You don't know who it is, that now you know.
Kelsey Ballerini is a country music singer, and I love her. But, like, she's gone through a lot of things with eating disorders. And she does have the trigger warnings at the front for anyone who needs them. Let's see. Experiencing trauma, PTSD, gun violence, eating disorders. So she all touches base on them. But because it's poetry, like... It's like one poem that touches on it, but just in case, like, even the word or the insinuation of it triggered you, it's in there. Because, which I knew about this, but I forgot when I read back when I'm back into it.
Yeah.
Her high school was one of the Tennessee shootings when she was in high school. And so she watched a boy.
The fact that you can say one of is terrifying.
Oh, it's true.
Oh, I know.
So yeah, I really enjoyed hers. I enjoyed it. And so, like, because I loved how she writes, and I mean, she's a musician, so, like, she writes poems. She sings her poems, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, it's really good.
Thank you for admitting that. I want you to clip that for me and put it into a standalone, so when my kids ask me about songs and poetry and why they're connected, I'm just going to play that.
Okay. Because she goes through a divorce right after this, and this was in... That was in 2022. This was published in 2021. I would love for, like, in 2030, she, like, publishes another one. If she was willing to and if she wanted to and if that was healing for her, would love to see how she goes through what's happening right now, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Solid.
Yeah. So then my third book that I read was a book about a forbidden romance. Is Love and Sports Ball. So, Love and Sports Ball. So this is about a basketball player and the new athletic trainer to the team.
Oh, Lord.
And how they have a one-night stand, and then she goes to work her new person on the job the next day, and was like, oh my gosh, that's my one-night stand.
I've been here before.
Yeah. And then the athletic trainer is the one who's like, no, we shouldn't do this. Like, I don't date and work in the same place. And then the player's like, why? We're adults. Like, who cares? Like, this is like a professional team. So they're both, like, in their 20s. Like, so,
Probably
you know.
20s to 30s, yeah.
And so they battle through that of, like, continuously having, like, one-night stands, but then being like, no, that was a bad choice. You probably shouldn't do it again. And then does it again.
That would irritate my whole soul. That would irritate I'm so glad I gave that to you, because that would irritate me.
It's not as bad as it sounds. Honestly, the last one I read is more irritating.
Okay.
But, so, I enjoyed this book. I gave it a...
3.75.
3.75.
I'm here to help.
I said a well-thought-out romance between an athletic trainer and a player. Lots and lots of spice. There is that. So, if you don't like lesbian sex, don't read this book.
Well, I figured that when you said they kept having a series of one-night stands.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was described, you know, like,
yeah,
versus
Fade to Black.
They could keep having that. Yeah, it's definitely not. Not a lot of background knowledge on the characters, but enough for you to understand who they are in the present. So, like, at one point,
a snapshot.
Yeah, exactly. It was a snapshot. It was still a detailed enough snapshot. Mm-hmm. And, like, they hint at things that made, like, the athletic trainer the way she is, and the way she has the mindset of, like, work and not date. Mm-hmm. But we don't really, like, talk about it. And, like, I'm one that I'm like, let's talk about it. Tell me all your life history so that I can understand why you are here together and why you're both acting this way.
Now, question for you with that. Do you think it would make for a better story, or is it just something that, like, you want?
But, I mean, probably just what I want. Okay. There might be other people who are just like, it's just enough. But, like, I'm good with going in deeper. Mm-hmm. Now, again, I'm also not, like, I don't need 600 pages of a book either. But, like...
Give her more without making her read a lot.
Yeah. There's authors that do that, okay?
Oh, I know.
There's people that can do it. So, like, I just want those people in my life. Anyway. So, then I also said... I enjoyed this book. The story was easy enough to follow as the chapters flipped back and forth between characters. Yeah. Of course, it ends how most romance books end. A solid, quick, spicy read. Yeah. Happily Ever After with some development and lots of spice. So just quick, you know, good little romance.
I love it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good.
Are you glad you have 2 copies of it?
I know, right? And I do have 2 copies of it.
Yeah.
Don't really know what to do with the other copy, if I'm being honest.
Ooh, we could put it into a...
But, yeah.
If you got a certain amount, we could put it into a giveaway.
Yeah, I would definitely consider that, giving one away. That'd be fun, actually. So, yeah. That was my 3rd book. My 4th book of February is A Book Where Opposites Attract. For that one, I read You Had Me at Happy Hour. Sorry. So battery died.
As we were saying, the Rainbow Mafia, as we affectionately call them.
Yes. So this book is about 2 men. One of them works at a like a winery bar type place, with his aunt and uncle, and then the other one is a cocktail mixologist from the city who moves to their city and is used as promotion, like for social media, and brings in customers for the restaurant and whatnot. So I had this one as like opposites attract because like one of them is a little more like sunshine and one's a little more grumpy. But then
they look it.
They come together at the end. My Fable review was a 4 out of 5. And then I said a true romance with a good amount of spice, but also a well thought out story. The characters learn and grow into who they truly are, and thus grow together as well. I enjoyed the plot being told from both perspectives. There was a good amount of backstory on each character that allows the reader to understand the root for them, like root for like the two of them together. Okay. So yeah, they definitely came from like different backgrounds, and they had different like things that they wanted perfected in either relationships or in the bedroom, and both of them were like, yeah, it's no problem, and they're like, oh, I've never had someone tell me that's no problem before. So then they fall madly in love, all the good times. And then my last book, which is my questionable book because I fully started it in February and I was 60% done last night.
This is where I argue that it counts because it's more than 50.
Yeah, okay. She proves it.
And that's all that matters.
So the last book I read in February was The Relationship Mechanic. This book was another lesbian spicy book. This is about a girl from Peach Blossom, Georgia, and a like celebrity daughter who gets broken down right outside the town, picks her up, and then they fall madly for each other.
A romance book that has romance? I'm shocked.
Yeah. So, I gave this book a 3 out of 5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't like that.
Got it. I enjoyed this book. Oh, sorry. So this is my Fable review. I enjoyed this book. However, I did end it wishing there was more details throughout the story. At times, it felt like it jumped so fast from hanging out to bedroom activities. And I wish I got to see more of their relationship develop, more conversations. It felt like a surface level summary. With that being said, I enjoyed the small town vibes, the different world characters, the cute happy ending, and being able to get both perspectives of the main characters.
Okay.
So, basically, what I was trying to say nicely on Fable was that, like, they would be, like, hanging out, and then they would go out with their friends, and they'd be doing something fun out there, and then she'd be like, oh my god, those legs, I just gotta eat them right now. Let's go home. And then they would go have sex. And then it'd be like again and again. I'm like, can y'all like have like develop something like that? It was driving me insane that they weren't like developing something. And like the whole point was that the celebrity daughter was only gonna be there for like a month, and then because she was visiting a friend who lives in that town, and then she was gonna go to Italy and do like her normal life, be her celebrity self, be her travel around the world person. So like, they technically weren't supposed to fall for each other. They were supposed to just continuously hook up. But, like, because I know the book and the story and the characters were going to lead and end in that placement of, like, yes, this is my person, I wish I saw more of that. Because, like, I'm good with the spice. I just wish I had more in between the spices.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. You just hook up again.
What developed their relationship so much to the point that she did not just go back to her regular life?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how do you like the person? Just the way they taste? Like, there has to be more.
I hate you.
There has to be more. Also, another mix characters as well. Because she has a little bit of, like, Asian in her. Again, I didn't get a lot of backstory.
There's a lot of sex.
But, like, Jessica, which is this one, they talk about how she's grown up in Vietnam and she knows some Korean.
Oh.
And when she goes to places and, like, people don't think she doesn't know Korean. Maybe. I don't
We don't know.
I don't know.
In my mind, I've made her now an army brat. Congratulations.
So like mixing of cultures as well. So I did like it. I wish there was more, and like this gave me more than this.
Okay.
And they both had like the same amount
of pages
of
I was gonna
say of spice. Those are the 5 that I read for February. And
you read 5 books?
I did read 5 books.
Are they all in a row?
They are all in a row.
So does that mean you got a bingo?
I got a bingo. Amazing.
We got our first bingo, everybody. That means you're able to buy 1 brand new book when you feel like it.
When I feel like it.
Yeah.
All right. Let me know if you guys have read any of the books that we read. Let me know your thoughts on these books down in the comments. And over on Instagram, you can let me know there.
Mm-hmm.
And don't forget to like and subscribe for more of these book bingo videos. And any other travel, adventure, Disney vlogs as well. We do everything. Because, like, why not?
There's a lot to do.
Yeah, it's fun. And I guess we will see you next month.
Yeah, when we review March.
When we review March.
And prep for April.
And prep for April.
That feels so far away, but it's
I'm
so
excited.
close at the same time.
I can't wait. All right, thank you so much for watching. Bye!